So you may have noticed I'm not Father Michael. My name is Father Bernard Olszewski. I'm a Polish boy, originally from New Jersey, but I'm now a priest in the Diocese of St. George's in Grenada in the Caribbean, except I live in Buffalo, New York, because the Caribbean, Buffalo, they're about the same, Now, I live in Buffalo because it's from there that I travel every weekend to a different parish in order to preach on behalf of the poorest of the poor served by Cross Catholic Outreach. And it is on their behalf that I'm at St. Mary's once again. I'd like to thank Father Michael very much for his kind invitation to allow us to be here again. Today, we arrive at a point in our journey with Jesus over the last several weeks, in which we are asked, which road do we take? A few weeks ago, we heard the gospel of Jesus sending out the 72, preaching the gospel basically to the ends of the earth. And then we heard the instruction of what does it mean to be a follower of Jesus. The lawyer who asks Jesus, what do I need to do? And Jesus said two things: love God, love your neighbor. And the clarification was, our neighbor is anyone whom God puts in our path, in the parable of the Good Samaritan. We had the story of Martha and Mary, in which Jesus tells us that even in the activities of life, if we stayed centered in the presence of God, then our lives will be immeasurably better. And in order to do that, Jesus taught us how to pray. We give glory to God as Father and Creator of all things. We bless His name, and then we pray that His kingdom may come. And His kingdom means the transformation of the world in which we live, giving us our daily bread, forgiving sins, bringing about the salvation that Paul describes for us in his letter to the Colossians. A world in which there is nothing separating us one from another. We are all brothers and sisters of one God. And today we are asked, which path do we choose? Do we choose the path of the world, like the man in the parable of the gospel, placing all of his trust in the possessions of this world? Or the man who asked Jesus, tell him to give me my inheritance. This is a man, if he's talking about inheritance, it means that his father has died. And yet that's not a concern for him. His inheritance is. So do we want to be like that? Or do we want to follow the path that the Lord asks of us? Namely, placing God at the center of our lives. Doing all that God asks us to do. Enjoying the benefits that God's graces provide for us, but centered in the life of God Himself through the grace of Jesus Christ. Today we are asked, which path do we choose? Are we people of this world, or are we people in this world of God's kingdom? And that is a choice which each and every one of us must make every single day of our lives. Because God places in front of us many opportunities to be His sign, to be the conduit of His grace, to be the presence of the gospel. And if we seek to live those moments, then we will never be caught up in ourselves and the things that people tell us are so important in this world. Today, the Lord asks us, which path do we take? Will we be disciples of Jesus? Through the actions of our lives, bringing salvation into this world, through the grace of Jesus living within us and pouring out from us, transforming this world into God's kingdom of grace and justice and unity and peace? Or will we stay closed up in our own little world, isolated one from another? The choice today is ours. But God asks us to open our lives to the beauty of his grace, the transformative power of the life of Jesus Christ, so that we might be those disciples sent to the ends of the earth to transform this world into God's kingdom until all of us, sisters and brothers of one God, can walk together into the fullness of that kingdom in the world to come. Cross Catholic Outreach was founded to bring that hope and vision more fully into the lives of the poorest of the poor in developing countries throughout the world. We still don't think we can cure world poverty, because we know Jesus said, the poor you will always have with you. But never did Jesus say, oh yeah, and that's okay. He reached out to the widow, the orphan, the blind, the lame, the leper, the public sinner, everyone who was pushed off to the sides and told, you don't count, you are not worth it. Because Jesus embraced them in his love and he changed their lives, we must do the same for our sisters and brothers in the world today. Cross Catholic begins with a simple idea. If you want to know what the poor need, ask them. Then look for ways to meet those needs. We don't invent programs or create projects. Rather, we look and we see what people are doing, missionaries, bishops and priests and religious and laity, doing great and wonderful work. And we enter into long-term partnerships with them because that work needs the help of people like you and me to make it possible, hopefully taking it to the next level, where we can actually break the cycle of poverty that has kept people enslaved for generation after generation for no other reason except they happened to have been born there. Our work began in the Caribbean in places like Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Grenada. We're in Central and South America, in Guatemala, Nicaragua, Honduras, Belize, Guyana, Mexico, Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador. In Asia, the Philippines, Vietnam, China, Afghanistan, and Africa from Ethiopia and Kenya down to Zambia, Mozambique, and Malawi. 29 countries across the globe, and in those countries we help sponsor over 170 different projects that run the whole gamut of human need. Hospitals and clinics and medical distribution centers, building schools, scholarships for children to go to school, orphanages, homes for the aged, homes for children with special needs, microloans for families to begin businesses, agricultural projects where whole villages can increase the yield of the land, feed themselves, sell the excess, and then invest the money in the village. And vocational trade centers where young men and women can learn a skill, get a job, break the cycle. And as important as all of that is, we need to start with 3 fundamental human needs, things you and I generally take for granted: adequate food, clean drinking water, safe, secure shelter. Without those, you can't do much. And so we help to dig wells. And then with villagers, we lay pipe to bring fresh water to places that have never had it. And suddenly life is transformed. Hygiene goes up, disease goes down, life is never the same. That's how we bring God's kingdom into the world, one well at a time. We build houses because there are people in this world who live in conditions, even if I showed you, you wouldn't believe it, because we would never put our pet there. We build a simple 3-room cinder block home on a concrete slab with a tin roof, outhouse, cooking area. It's nothing we'd like, but for the families living there, absolute dream come true, because now they can keep their families in safety and security with the peace of mind of a front door with a key they can lock. That's the way we change this world into God's kingdom, one house at a time. But the one thing we all need is food, and so we help to feed people. We continue to partner with Feed My Starving Children in Minneapolis. They prepare packets of food called manna packs. Rice, beans, vegetables, soy flakes, all fortified with vitamins, minerals, and iron. It's packed in a little plastic bag. And that bag has to be emptied into a quart of water, and then it's boiled for a half hour. So even where you can't drink the water, people can still eat. Each packet will feed 6 people a meal. It's all donated. But they can't get it to the people who need it the most, and we can through that network of partners. When we send a 40-foot shipping container of manna pack to a country, we are able to feed 225,000 people a meal. Central America, it's about $7,000 to ship. So for $7,000, we can feed almost 250,000 loaves and fishes. Last year, we fed over 30 million people. But as we did, I know that there were millions who still did not have enough. I know that in the world today, parents are having to make a choice. And that choice is, which of their children will be able to eat? Because they don't have food for all of them. I don't want to live in a world where a child has to say, but it's not my day to eat. I've heard it. Mothers in Haiti started their day making what they call good bread. It's not. They scrape up dirt from the earth, mix it with a little bit of shortening, a few sprinkles of salt on the top, and then it's baked in the hot sun. When a child cries out in the pangs of hunger and a mother has nothing, dried mud cakes are dinner, because at least it's something in the stomach. 7 years ago, the village of Zacapa in Guatemala, a young lady was brought to Sister Vitalina at the Hope for Life Center. This young lady is the 5th of 7 children. Mother is deceased, father a subsistence farmer. He does his best. But when his daughter Mirza was brought to Sister, at the age of 14, she weighed exactly 19 pounds. Not because her father didn't love her. Her 6 brothers had to eat first because they had to work the farm. Through the grace of God, the love of Sister, and the care she's provided these last 7 years, I am happy to say that in her way, Mirza is thriving. That is the way we change this world into God's kingdom, one child at a time. We heard a couple of weeks ago, all of us, we are the missionaries of the gospel. We're baptized into the life of Jesus, priest, prophet, king. We are the prophets of the gospel. Some are called to be prophets and to give by going, missionaries, feet on the ground, hands doing work. But most of us were called to go by giving, thoughts, prayers, and resources to change the world into God's kingdom. Today, no special collection for Cross Catholic Outreach, but I do ask for your help. If you look in the pews at the ends and scattered on the seats, you will see our brochures. What I'm asking is that you share those so that each household might take one home. And if you do 3 things, please. First one, read it, because it reminds you who we are. It shows you the faces of people who work with us and are helped by us, and the way that we can work miracles. Because we work collaboratively and directly, and because over 95% of the funds raised by Cross goes to the poor, we do work miracles. $25 feeds 167 children. $50 life-saving medicine for a child like Mirza. $100, it's a family beginning a business raising chickens. $500, the pump to deliver the fresh water. And for $2,500, we can begin building one of those homes. Please read it. Second, prayer. I ask you, please don't pray for the poor. Please pray with the poor. Because they who have nothing trust in God completely. If we could learn to pray as they do, we could change this world. Join your prayers with the poor that poverty be addressed in a real way. Lastly, can you be part of the solution offered by Cross Catholic through a donation? And to do that, you simply tear off the top half. The bottom half is your mailer. In that, you place a check made out to Cross Catholic, credit or debit card or PayPal, 800 number, or go to our website, crosscatholic.org, safe and secure online. Include your prayer intentions. Every day in the office begins with an hour of prayer, and these intentions are remembered. Seal it. Drop it in the mail. You are good to go. Miracles begin to happen. If you're thinking you would like to do something, but you're afraid it will get lost, I will be in the narthex at the end of Mass. I'd be happy to take this from you, put it together, and send it off tomorrow. I stand before you as a beggar, not for me, but for the poorest of the poor whose faces you don't see and voices you don't hear. Because I know at the end of time there's a very simple test. Jesus will ask, when I was hungry, did you feed me? Thirsty, did you give me clean water? When I needed training or medicine or education, a house, did you help me? And if we can say, yes, Lord, I did that for the least of my sisters and brothers, I did that for you, Jesus will say, come, good and faithful servant, come into the joy of heaven forever. On behalf of the poorest of the poor whose privilege it is for me to be their voice for you today. Thank you.